Hello, and this is Easter Sunday, and I hope your day is proceeding nicely. Mine certainly is. We just have the most beautiful weather here. It's nice and warm, and I've been watching videos today, one after another, and moving them around. I've been real busy. But a video really got my attention that has been done at some length. It's an hour and a half about the Hollywood culture and how it has affected our relationships and our society. And in the family I grew up in, one of my uncles, Marty Ritt, was a Hollywood director. And he was blackballed in the 50s. And the movies that he did direct and produce had a lot to do with social issues. So he was known in the family as being a very highly moral socialist. All right. And so I didn't grow up with any idea that Jewish people were anything but normal. Even the Hollywood, we went down to Hollywood and I met Uncle Marty in 1982 or 83. And he was cool. He was a nice guy. And the Hollywood scene has always struck me as being very corporate. And so I was never particularly attracted to it. And so in this video, the gentleman who used to work stunts and who now produces his own work is talking about the sex trafficking and the Satanism and the cannibalism and the violence and yaketa smacketa, all of that. And I began to think about that as a movement toward individual preferences and away from the devotion to an ideology or the devotion to an ideal. And so I began thinking in terms of separation. And what appears to be happening in our society now is that a separation is occurring between the people who accept official information and the people who don't accept official information, between those who are not paying much attention to method. They're just looking at things like popularity and amusement and instant gratification versus the people who are seriously studying self-sufficiency, the tiny home movement, organic gardening, natural healing. There's this separation occurring between the people and the people. And so you say to me, well, how can you see that separation? Well, I can't, because I'm not clairvoyant at all. Okay, I have no clairvoyance. But the people who are the higher dimensionals, the divines and the deities and the angels who have clairvoyance, who can see the aura, what they are witnessing is that the auras are following into two discrete, recognizable patterns, like a spectrographic analysis, so that people are becoming visibly ideological at the etheric level. And what this means is there really is no secrecy. And so all the brouhaha about privacy and keeping secrets is just a red herring. It doesn't have any actual meaning or matter or value. There is no privacy in this universe. Every thought is visible to someone who's looking at you. And this is the reason that religion, religious covenants, religious teachings and doctrines and dogmas and practices always encourage an individual who is seeking association with a higher reality to discipline their mind and channel and edit their own thoughts and not take their own thoughts too seriously. Because a thought, like the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man, may have no reality, no reason to exist. And yet, I've noticed some of my dreams have been so vivid that the memory of those dreams is as real as the memory of some of my actual experiences. So what's real and meaningful gets real fuzzy. Yeah. A piece of data that I see floating around a lot. Well, it's not data. It's a claim. It's a claim. When the folks in the New Age movement or the metaphysical movement or the teacher movement say, we want to raise our vibration so we can ascend. And I was wondering about that thought because Jehovah or Yahweh, his or her rate of vibration is down around 2 or 3 hertz. It's very low and slow, like a healthy heartbeat. Whereas the vibrations that are very high, like up in the 852 and the 963, very high, to create an attraction between atomic particles that are very far apart. Okay, those atomic particles are very heavy, whereas the atomic particles of the angels, the angels operate at about 15 hertz. And I find that my rate of vibration is not going up, it's coming down. And it's those whose vibratory rate gets calmed to the point where they're not fluttering, okay? Those are the people who can be calm enough to simply decide what to attract and what to separate from. That takes a calm. I like the British saying, be calm and carry on. Okay, being calm is a value. It's a value because it clears your thinking and it expresses patience and some wisdom. So on the matter of separation, let me get back to that. The large body of our society immerse themselves in media objects and media experiences and videos and games and programmed music and channels, okay, channels on the TV, which flicker at a very high rate of vibration. And they keep the people who are watching them on edge. I noticed very early on as a young person, and well, maybe because I was slow, that if I walked into a room that the TV was on, I had a hard time carrying on a conversation. The TV was like in the way. And that was when TVs were just little boxes. Now they take up half the wall, okay? And of course, I got rid of my TV about 23 years ago because I couldn't stand to have it near me. I don't like radio either. I have a house full of books. Books don't make too much noise. And you can go to them whenever you want to. And you can look in the index for whatever you're interested in. And my books to me are like the friends that I live with in my house instead of all the noise and stuff blaring at me. But you see, I'm an old fart from a generation that's quickly passing away. And what the scripture says about that is that this world and its desires and preferences is going to be passing away for something more eternal. The empire that keeps reasserting itself in cycles. There was Sumer and Babylon and Assyria and Greece and Rome and Tartary, and the elements and artifacts of Tartary are still all over the place. There was an ethic that was associated with every single empire. And that ethic has to do, which is built on and derived from the galactic treaties, Treaties, not ISE, the galactic treaties that established the neighborhood of this galaxy at the time after the Lyran Wars. The El-Anu Treaty was crafted as part of the Emerald Tablets. And the El-Anu Treaty set up this world as a predatory world in which the superior races prey on and call the inferior races. And that's why we have a history that we have. And that's why we've been dealing with evil and suffering and misery all along, because it's part of the program here. Now, the scriptures that we've been given all set as an ideal the idea of peace. And what is peace but the skills of cooperation so that people are able to interact and deal with each other in a rational manner? Well, that's fine. That's fine. But what happens to a society that becomes completely peaceful is that it also becomes completely stagnant, okay, without any conflict or dispute or issue to deal with. Everybody's just living under a banana tree, all right? And so this world is a school. It's a prison planet. It's a hard place. And we're at a hard time in this hard place. And we have to decide whether to stay with mainstream society or pull away from it. And pulling away from it is very costly. You can lose your family, your job, your friends, your housing, your resources. You can lose everything material and everything egoic by pulling away from society. But what you save is your own soul for something that appeals to you, is desirable to you, is a form of behavior that doesn't make you feel embarrassed or guilty. If you want to have a clean conscience, okay, people who want a clean conscience pull away from the mainstream society that is into human trafficking and child sex trafficking and drug running and gun running and serial wars and bank usury. Oh my God. You just go, like pushing yourself away from the table. And those of us who do pull away from mainstream society, sometimes they pull together in communities if there's enough of them to do so. And sometimes, as in the custom in this generation, that the people who pull away become isolated. They're essentially called witches and warlocks, and they're held off to the side. They're held off to the side. You don't belong here. You don't believe like we believe. You act funny. All right. And in that predicament of being isolated and somewhat bereft of options and mobility, what we find is that igniting our soul and relating to the larger universe and its principles and its drama becomes possible. And this is how the elders, the old people, can sit around and be kind of mellow because they're revisiting the old issues, the old relationships. And so isolation is not as miserable as one might think it is. It's actually the opportunity to retune one's mind back to the soul's values. And so, wow, that's a lot to think about for an Easter day. And separation is a situation that I have come to accept. And I have other friends who have accepted their separations too, separate from their families and separate from their old friends and separate from the work that they used to do. And what we're busy doing is reassessing and reassembling our thought processes to make the separation between good and evil clear. We decide, do we want to live for our preferences and our novelties and our glamours and our ego, or do we want to make a difference in how everybody can live together? And so the great separation is occurring. And of course, the Bible talks a lot about it. For the minds, they're called archons, they're called demons, they're called jinns, who disturb our well-being and disturb our quiet and calm, okay, are actually the tools of separation so that the angels and God him herself can evaluate souls for their honest desires. What do you want to be when you're no longer in this meat suit anymore? Okay, the meat suit is temporary, and what comes after can be very interesting, I'm sure, right? So think about separation and your part in it. Okay, if you're there are a lot of people in families who do not think like the other members of their family, and it's not a problem because the whole family has accepted diversity of the mind and the free spirit as acceptable and okay. But that's not always the case. And so we think about how to interact with different people differently. Okay? We have to interact sometimes with our enemies. And with our enemies, we have to be hyper civil because they're looking for something to hang us on. We have to be very civil with our masters, our bosses and supervisors. Very civil with them because our future depends on them. But the day may come when the desire to separate will lead you to say, I just can't do this anymore. That day comes. We have associates in our life that are not really friends. They might be neighbors, business people, okay? And how we respond to them to get the best out of impersonal relationships is to cultivate a sense of humor and be able to look the other person in the eye and give a nice greeting, a friendly hello. That means a lot to people, just to give them a smile, because many are suffering. For our friends, we're not always smiling for our friends because we look out for them the way we look out for ourselves. And when our friends screw up, we feel compelled to help them see their problem. um, it doesn't work very well quite often, but you pays your money and you take your chances. But then again, with family, we must be civil despite the differences, or the separation becomes permanent, and we don't want that to happen. So separation is a part of our lives now, in the media, the print media, the internet, where we're all classifying ourselves into thought groups. So you might think about what thought group you belong to, and whether you're separate from the system or the matrix, whatever you want to call it, and what you want to be when you grow up. I haven't grown up yet. I still have a lot of work to do, to deal with old issues and to deal with what I don't know, because what's clear to me at this age is there's a lot more that I don't know than there is that I do. And so I try to follow my grandmother's advice. She used to say to me when she was 90, everybody I meet knows something that I don't know. And she was able to listen to just about anybody. So that's a skill that I'm still working to accomplish, because I tend to interrupt too much. I'm sorry about that. All right, you guys, I hope you've had a good Easter, and we'll see you in a day or so. And I want to rejoice for those who can rejoice, and empathize with those people who are suffering now from either illness or treachery or double dealing or divide and conquer. All of these things are going on in our society that we have to make decisions about what to adopt and what to separate ourselves from. This has been Emily Craig, and you're welcome to be my friend or subscribe or get notifications or whatever. This is a non-commercial announcement. I don't charge. If you can put up with me, I put up with you. Thank you so much for coming by. Bye-bye.